What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 10 of the RGP series. In this episode, I'm going to be hanging out in the wilderness to find out just how much you can really make at the Ents. What's going on, guys? So before we get into this video, I want to give a shout out to 5 players that are regulars in my clan chat. These 5 players came together in a moment of need for another player who was stuck fishing lobsters in free-to-play, trying to make enough for a bond. No one asked them to do this, and they did it only as a nice gesture for someone grinding for a bond. So thank you to Arcane Bear, Demarshi, AsukaYen, Big Skin L, and Slayers. I also want to say thank you to you guys as well for making my CC such a friendly and active place to hang out. Additionally, please feel free to use my Discord for anything you may need, whether it just be a place to hang out and chat, or if you need somewhere to communicate easier with your boss teams. You can find the permanent invite link in the description below. So without further ado, let's get into this week's content. As you obviously can tell from the title, we'll be getting into Wilderness Ents this week just to see how much you can actually make from them. I've heard rumors that it can be anywhere from 300k per hour all the way up to 700k per hour, so when I saw it as a request from viewers, I figured why not? Before we jump into the background information, I want to suggest 3 requirements that are most certainly a must to maximize your profit. First, you're going to want to have 75 woodcutting or higher. Now, I did do a ton of research here and I couldn't find anything at all that states your woodcutting level determines the speed at which you cut Ent trunks. The only thing I could find is that you get different logs based on the type of axe you are using and based on the highest tree you can cut. After reaching 75 woodcutting, you have the ability to receive magic logs from Ent trunks. The second requirement here is going to be using a dragon axe. The better the axe, the more of the best type of logs you can get. And you'll see later how much this increases the logs you get when we get to the loot part of this video. And lastly, you'll want to have the Wilderness Medium Achievement Diaries done. The completion of these diaries increases the speed at which you receive logs from the Ent trunks. This also furthers my theory that woodcutting level doesn't have anything to do with the speed you get the logs from the trunks. So now with those 3 requirements out of the way, we can jump into the background information. Ents are a very easy NPC to kill even if you are of a lower combat level. The Wilderness Ents sport a combat level of 101 and a hit point level of 105. Comparing these to the other NPCs I've covered in this series, they are much easier to kill than most everything else I've covered. They are aggressive, but spending 10 to 15 minutes in their roam area will make them unaggressive. Their max hit is 10, which isn't too bad, and their weakness is magic. Now, even though their weakness is magic, we'll talk about why you won't want to use that now. The Ents have an attack level of 80, strength level of 95, and a defense level of only 75. With a very low defense level of 75, you can pretty much do whatever you want here, whether it be range or melee. In terms of their resistances, their range defense bonus is only plus 30, and for melee, you'll be wanting to use something with a good stab bonus, as this is their lowest melee bonus at only plus 50. Regardless of what you choose, you'll still hit very well and very often. As for magic, we're trying to make as much money here as possible. After testing this myself, I found that both range and melee are faster kills than magic unless you're using a trident of the seas or swamp, but both of these staffs cost much more than it is worth to use here. So I suggest you just use melee or range, whatever you're more comfortable with. As for their drops, you'll see here that they only give noted logs of each type with the exception of redwood logs. You'll also notice that they are cut one at a time. They are only cut one at a time in the woodcutting guild. In the wilderness, you'll receive 2 noted logs per cut as you're taking a bit more risk by being in the wilderness for an extended period of time. I'll also point out here that if you're on a Wilderness Slayer task assigned by Cristelia in Edgeville, you'll have a 1 in 102.5 chance of receiving a mysterious emblem as a drop here. Additionally, just like any form of woodcutting, you'll also have the chance to receive birds' nests while chopping the Ent trunks, so definitely keep an eye out for those while you're chopping away. And now, as usual, we will jump into the gear setup. For my setup, I'll be going with a Helm of Nitsnot, Zamorak God Cape, Amulet of Fury, Zamorakian Hasta, Unholy Book, Black Dragonhide Body and Chaps, Rune Gloves, and Primordial Boots. I chose to go with this setup because it offers decent defense from PKers, as well as just enough to keep me from getting pummeled by the Ents. The Zamorak God Cape gives plus 10 to magic defense, making it a little tougher for PKers to land their barrage or teleblock. If you're wondering why I'm not using a defender, the Ents I chose to kill were located right near the Corporal Beast Slayer, which is higher than 20 wilderness, so I would lose a dragon defender. We'll also want to keep in mind that since we're in the wilderness, we only want to have a maximum of 4 good items on us. This way, should we get PK'd, we won't lose too much stuff. With this particular setup, it took me between 15 and 30 seconds to kill one Ent. Once the Ent dies, you will have 1 minute to chop as many logs as possible before the Ent trunk despawns. In my inventory, you'll see 19 monkfish, a royal seed pod, games necklace, and a dragon axe. The reason my inventory isn't filled up with food is because chopping the Ent trunks works in a weird way. Being 75 woodcutting, I won't receive normal logs from the trunks, only oak logs all the way up to magic. This is 5 inventory spaces, but you'll need 6 inventory spaces free to keep on chopping once you have all 5 stacks. For some reason, even though they are noted, if you try to chop the trunk without a free inventory spot, you'll receive the message that your inventory is too full to carry any more items. So just make sure you always have 1 free inventory space while chopping. As for my teleport out, I'll be using the Royal Seed Pod teleport, as it is a one-click teleport up to 30 wilderness. If you haven't done Monkey Madness 2 yet and don't have this, consider swapping out the Fury for a Glory, or just wearing a Ring of Wealth for a teleport that works up to level 30 wilderness. You'll also notice that I don't have any super attack or strength with me. I decided not to use these because the kills are very fast as it is, and the majority of the time you're here you'll be chopping more than you'll be fighting. So I only suggest to bring super attack and strength here if your attack and strength stats are lower than 85. Any higher than this and your kill speeds will be just fine without them. Should I get PK'd while I'm out here, I'll only be losing about 55k in stuff, which isn't too much considering the profit I made out here. With the Protect Item Prayer active, I'll protect my Primordial Boots, Zamorak and Hosta, Amulet of Fury, and Dragon Axe. And if I get PK'd with the rest of the crap on me, I'm not too worried about losing it. Grats to you for grabbing 50k. Alright, so now let's jump into the loot and see how much you can really make at the Wilderness Ents. As usual, I spent 25 hours killing the Ents. I did happen to get PK'd twice, so I will address that in the final GP per hour, as well as giving the view on how much you can make if you don't die. I was actually very surprised at the loot outcome when I was done. Oak, willow, and maple logs, they aren't worth that much, but I did end up with 3,708 U logs and 10,004 magic logs. That right there shows you that it is a really good idea to have 75 woodcutting and the Wilderness Medium Diaries completed. But without delaying this any further, let's see what I ended up with. 13,123,003 GP. I can't say I'm displeased with that at all. Obviously the majority of the cash is the magic log stack, but in the end everything adds up. As for supplies, this didn't really cost much to do. I only used 352 monkfish and 3 games necklaces during the entire 25 hours. This brought my total supply cost to 137,464 GP. Subtracting this from my total loot value gives me an overall profit of 12,985,539 GP. We will go ahead and round this to 12.98 mil, which gives me a total profit per hour of 519k. So if you happen to get lucky enough to stay out here without getting PK'd, you're looking at a damn good amount of profit per hour for not a lot of effort. Now, like I said earlier, I did get PK'd twice for about 110k in gear, so taking this into account, it ended up setting my profit per hour back to 514k per hour. Only losing 5k per hour while getting PK'd twice isn't a huge setback by any means, and I will take that trade-off every day for profit like this. So, as for my final thoughts, if you're looking for somewhere to make some money that is semi-AFK and can still turn a good profit per hour, this is definitely the place for you. Although there is a bit of risk involved with PKers and whatnot, I still think that it is most certainly a viable money-making option for those of you who might have some homework to do or maybe a Netflix series to catch up on. Either way, if you're in a pinch for some GP, spend a couple of hours here and you could be back on your feet in no time. But that is going to wrap up episode 10. As always, I want to thank those of you who requested Ents. I was surprised at how much I actually made here, as I'm sure you all are as well. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below and I'll try to get to every single one that I can. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a thumbs up. They really help the video spread around. And lastly, if you haven't already, don't forget to tap that subscribe button on your way out. I will be seeing all of you next week. Take it easy, everybody.